nagarajhomes.com. Hello, Bay Area. Tension chordo. Welcome to the real estate show where we decode the market one conversation at a time. Just one conversation. I'm your host, Nagaraj Annaiah, your trusted Bay Area Realtor and a real estate strategist. Today's episode is all about mortgage trends, what's changing, what's staying, and what it means for you as a buyer, investor, or a homeowner. And to help us to make sense of all, I'm thrilled to welcome back a very, very special guest, mortgage expert April Held. April brings a deep insights into rates, loan products, and the strategies that can help you navigate this shifting market with confidence. Hello, April. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Nagaraj. Thank you so much.
Listeners, if you have any questions, this show is all for you to build your real estate, build your wealth. You can give us a call. Our studio line numbers are 877 Bali 92. 877 Bali 92. April, let's talk about the basic stuff, right? Like how do current economic conditions, right, are affecting a mortgage decisions? How is it going on?
Well, basically with the mortgage rates, we've been kind of going a little up and down because of the tariffs and some of the economic uncertainty in the markets. So we're kind of bouncing up and down. We're hoping that once we get through the uncertainty period, rates will continue to start going down again.
I think as we were discussing before this show, right, like good news is not good for the rates, right?
It's good for the stock market, but it's not good for the bond market. So mortgage-backed securities are bonds. So whenever we have good news, which we had a little good news today, it's not typically good news for mortgage rates.
Okay. Now let's talk about what are the current mortgage rates, and how are they expected to change?
I think definitely once we get through the uncertainty, they definitely will go down. So 30-year fixed mortgages are sitting right around 6.5%, and then some of our ARM products are 5.875 to 6%, some of our popular products. So they're still sitting in a very good range right now, but we look forward to them coming down further once the uncertainty is kind of behind us.
And I think that 6% owing or close to 6%, right? Does the credit score matters? How are you seeing the trends about the credit scores nowadays?
So credit score can definitely matter with certain investors. So it depends on the investor. We are a little bit less credit sensitive on some of my investors. But with normal investors, it may change with every 20 points of your credit score.
Yeah. And one more thing is like the 6% is not, I think it's, as you said, it's going around 5.75 to 6%. Again, depends on the each individual's listeners. This is not the rates which we are giving out. Like it depends on the criterias or the conditions or like the buyer's qualification that we need to it's again depends on the qualifications of the buyers, so that you need to once the qualifications are once the April checks out the credit score and other qualifications it can give out. But if you have any other questions on the real estate or anything on the mortgage, we are live on a Bali 92.3, myself, Realtor Nagaraj Annaiah, and I'm talking to April. If you have any questions, you can give us a call. Our studio line numbers are 877 Bali 92, 877 Bali 92. So this is rate does matter, right? Like if it's a lower rates, what's the lowest rate? What is the lowest credit score you can qualify for any home buyer or a borrower?
Well, in most of the Bay Area markets, you're looking at probably about a 620 credit score. For areas that we can actually go down below that to 580 and below, but most of those are not for the homes in the Bay Area the areas that probably you're dealing with most of the time. That would be definitely in the outskirts and some of the lower loan amounts.
So if it's like, let's assume you're a 650 credit score or a 660 credit score, still they can qualify for a 6%?
Yeah, in a lot of cases they can. And it really depends on also looking at the credit. What causes that credit score? Are they not making a lot of payments on time? Are they charge-off accounts? Those are looked at obviously more negative. But if maybe they have high credit usage on their credit cards and maybe not that much credit,
Mhm.
then that can be rectified really quickly and not looked at as such a negative factor. So it just really depends on what's causing the credit score to be that.
I think I have one thing to talk about it. Yesterday, I was talking to one of the borrower. He was telling me, "Nagaraj, my credit score is really good. I didn't do anything, but only thing I made is I missed one of the credit payments. It dropped my rate. How serious is that? Any credit card payments, delayed credit card payments?
You have to pay them on time. Well, and a lot of things, it really depends on how long you've had credit. So for folks that maybe just got to America, are just establishing credit and then miss a payment, they don't have that much credit history. So that one missed payment can be huge in hurting your credit. Whereas if you've had credit established since 1990, it's not going to affect you as much. So that, especially for folks that are just coming over and just establishing credit in the US, make sure and stay on top of your payments because it can really affect you a lot more than maybe someone else.
I think that's the well said. I think see listeners like especially don't make a basically make a note about it or make the payments actually like when is your payments, credit card payments or any other payments also, because anytime you miss your payments, it is like it's going to impact on what it's a 2 years or 3 years on the records. April, it's like I don't remember.
It depends. I mean, they keep them on there for like 7 years, I think a lot of them. So yeah, so it can affect it. And if it's not updated properly, if it turns to collection or something like that, it can hang on for quite a while. But if it's just one payment, okay, yeah, maybe 2, 3 years, it'll start going away. It's just the farther that it goes out, the less it will affect your credit.
Yeah, don't miss your credit payments, credit card payments, or any other payments, especially. And maybe best way is like put it into auto pays, which is might be help you out, so that way you will not miss out your payments. And one more important thing is like April, like are there any alternative financing options to consider? Like for example, most of the time you always buyers or borrowers will ask you 30-year fixed or arm rates are better, so how do you basically suggest which one to select for?
So it depends on what their risk tolerance is, what they're comfortable with. So what they're comfortable with as far as risk, what they're comfortable with as far as payment. So when we're talking about some of the ARM loans, yes, you're going to have a lower interest rate, but ultimately, if you cannot sleep at night because you are worried that that is going to go up someday, then that's not going to be the best option for you, even if it might be the best option for you. If you're not sleeping well at night, then it's not. So it just depends on risk tolerance. So I try to
Not
lay
only the risk tolerance, right? Like one more thing to think about is like it's like what scenarios of when you're borrowing the money, right? Like for example, you're almost in a retirement and you're thinking you're not going to go like basically yeah, get your income from next, like you're not going to get your salaries for next 2 3 years or maybe 4 years, or you're planning for a retirement, maybe 30 years might work out for them.
That is true. Yeah. And that might be the best option for them. And on the contrary, if someone maybe is starting a new job and they need the lower payments now, an ARM, and they know they're going to make more money later, then an ARM loan would be a really good option for them. It would help them qualify for more now and then let them refi later. And especially if they're going to be making more money later on.
Yeah, I think nothing is like basically it's arms or 30 years, nothing is kind of until we look at the scenarios, we can't tell you which is better for you, but always 30 years, what we are looking at the trends right now, what 0.25% more or 0.3% right now, higher.
They're usually on average 3/4%,
Mhm.
somewhere in that range to 1%, depending. So it's a pretty big difference. And what I tell people, once we pre-approve people, I give them all the options and they look at it, but they may not know also, it's also how long do they plan to stay in this home? It might be their starter home and they plan to move in 5 years. So sometimes they don't know which product is better for them either until they find the home and actually are in contract on it to know what their plans are for the future.
I think typically what I've seen the first time home buyers, especially the average days, like average number of years they're staying in the homes are like 3 to 4 years, right? I think they're not staying more than 3 to 4 years unless they buy their first house such that 2,500 square footage, bigger house. But still, if somebody has bought, their requirements are changing every 3 to 4 years because the family needs are changing in, right? Before you getting a kids maybe you would have bought something 2 floors 3 floors. Maybe after you have a kid, then you think 3 floors doesn't work out for you, you need a single family home, right? You jump to maybe 1,200 1,300 square footage again. Later you have two kids more, then you might say you need 2,500 square footage, right? Then maybe after the kids grows up, when the kids growing up, the school needs and everything one more, then again after kids goes to a college, no, I need to downgrade now, or maybe I need a 4,000 square footage homes. So I've dealt with all these scenarios. Like everybody's needs are totally different. Nothing is kind of fixed. You need this kind of stuff.
Well, and besides that, cycles, the mortgage rate cycles and housing cycles cycle at least every 7 to 10 years. And so it's almost, I'm not even sure if anybody has ever really that often kept a 30-year fixed mortgage. I mean, at some point, you're not going to keep it 30 years. You're probably going to do something. Sometimes you're going to take cash out. Sometimes you're going to refinance it to get a better interest rate. So, there's a lot of considerations where maybe a 30-year fixed isn't the one because either you're not going to live in it or you're just not going to keep the loan that long.
I think that's why I always tell the yesterday also I met some first time home buyer. They were thinking about after 5 years, 4 years, what do I do now? 3 years, they were planning for everything for that. I told them, no, dude, just take one step at a time. Just think for next 2 years. You never know what's happening on the next. Live for the moment right now, right?
Yeah.
Why do you even think about 2 years? I know it's like everybody wants to plan for the future, but too many things when you're considering in the current things will not help you out.
Yes. Well, and certain people, if people were here in 2008
Mhm.
when the crisis happened, which that particular scenario will not happen again, that was a completely unique situation. But some of those people remember, oh my gosh, the ARM loans, and there were so many factors going on that are so different these days, and people are qualifying. But some people are nervous because of that. So, but
Since you told me about 2008, I think I want to talk more about it. Okay, listeners, myself, Realtor Nagaraj Annaiah. I'm talking to April L. We are discussing about all the real estate stuffs and mortgage. If you have any questions, do give us a call. We are live on Bali 92.3. 877 Bali 92 is our call. Like you can call our number like 877 Bali 92. You would like to share something on especially on 2008, or like if you're buying a house or anything, you can give us a call. So April, let's touch upon that. Since you said it 2008, I think I want, since I was not in 2008 in US, okay, but I would like to know your stories, what all it went in, something interesting things you want to share about 2008, or like some examples you want to share what happened actually.
yeah, so back then, a lot of the problem that happened back then was there was a lot of, they wanted to give a lot of housing to people with not such good credit scores because they wanted everyone to own a house.
Mhm.
Not only did they have not so good credit scores, but they also didn't qualify. So we had these loans where they weren't qualifying income as much, and they could have lower credit scores. So when suddenly these banks and such went started going under as everything started falling, they stopped paying, and some people couldn't pay their mortgage payments, or if their property devalued, they just stopped paying. So there was a lot of factors back then because people weren't actually qualified for the loans, and they just couldn't afford the payment because they weren't really properly vetted.
No, but what happened to this? Like, over can't they went for foreclosures, or like basically what happened to it? Like some people, I think what I hear the stories during foreclosures also, the courts didn't allow them to do the foreclosures if it's a primary residence.
So it was what happened is a lot of those loans were the subprime, what we called subprime.
Mhm,
They were only fixed for 2 years time.
mhm.
And when that happened, and then they went to normal interest rates, when they adjusted, people couldn't afford the homes. And then, yeah, so there was foreclosures that were going on. And then even if people weren't in foreclosure, as things started going on, properties started devaluating quite quickly. And so, and most of those people did not put a high down payment down. They were getting loans for 100%. It was maybe an 80% first and a 20% second. So they didn't have skin in the game either.
Mhm.
So they were just walking away from properties, which was then devaluing properties more. And all the lenders were trying, when they're foreclosure, the first mortgages would try to get what they can. All the second lien holders took a bath and they didn't get anything because there was nothing left with the devaluation of the property. So it just really was a downward spiral, but it really was. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff in the banking that they were doing that was not correct. They should have never been doing that. And they also didn't vet people and qualify people. So fortunately, we're in a different place where that part of it will not happen. And qualifying people at least to make their mortgage payment, which was always super important to me. I had a few people that I did subprime loans for just because I was trying to put them in a better situation.
Mhm.
And when the crash happened, I literally had to call them and, you still have your home, don't you? Because the plan was to get them into a 30-year fixed loan afterwards, and then the crash happened. So it was very stressful.
I think it's interesting story. Listeners, don't go anywhere. Like we'll come back soon. We're taking a quick break. If you are selling your Bay Area home, maximize your profit and minimize your stress with Nagaraj Annaiah, a mortgage and real estate expert. Nagaraj Annaiah understands the unique challenges Bay Area sellers face. He'll expertly price your home, market it to the right buyers, and negotiate the best possible deal. For a free consultation, call Nagaraj Annaiah today at 858-880-4577 or visit nagarajhomes.com. Listeners, welcome back to the show. Myself, Realtor Nagaraj Annaiah, and I'm talking to April L. And we're discussing all about the Bay Area real estate and mortgage stories. If you have anything to share, do give us a call. Our studio line numbers are 877 Bolly 92. That was very interesting. But one more thing, stories what I heard about is like even the houses which were in a contract, right? And they would receive the EMDs, they were not able to perform. They were just walking out.
Yep. Yeah, it literally, and all the lenders were falling and just going out of business. There was literally a website that we could look at that this lender would go every day. We'd look and just watch the lenders just go out of business. This one, that one, the other one. It was just a crazy, crazy time. But yeah, it
I think
was a cyclone of different circumstances, which fortunately we won't see again in that dynamic.
but it was interesting, but I want to add few things there, right? Like what's happening might be around, right? Now the home values, I know we have stricter guidelines, okay? Stricter guidelines, what we have. There are lenders are not loosening on their guidelines, okay? Lenders are very strict, what we talk about it. But the home values are appreciating so much right now, correct? For example, you bought a house for 2 million now, what, maybe a couple of years back. Right now, the home values are close to already 3.5, 4 millions. It's, I think I've seen some instances even 3.5 millions, right? Again, depends on the house scenarios. HELOC comes into picture. People are borrowing more on the HELOCs now, right? That's a second lien. Again, depends on the first lien or a second lien, right? The first lien is always your primary lender. The second one is the second HELOC loans, right? Do you think this HELOCs will add up something in the future? Because some lenders are saying $1 million, but I think there are stricter guidelines on that one also, right? I think most of the lenders stops at 1 million.
Yeah. It's the second lien holders are always monitoring those once they're out to watch home values because especially since they, lost out in 2008, they're very careful to make sure that their equity position is protected.
Yeah, that's why especially the loosening or a tight, like, I think we don't see much. Only some lenders might be, but that would be higher interest rates, not like the regular lenders are doing on that. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think one more. Are you seeing anything Bay Area specific lending trends? Like, are you seeing that people are putting 10%, 20%? What is the scenarios right now people you are seeing in? Like, Is more 20% downs or like 10% are you seeing in still?
I'm seeing both. It's kind of with my loans kind of 50-50 on that. Probably a little bit more 20% down. And then if I have folks that are, selling properties and different things, then more than that. But I would say probably the norm is more 20%, with maybe a third of mine being 10% down.
But still, do you see 5% downs?
I do, but not with the once you go over into the jumbo category,
Mhm.
that's when it's difficult to do a 5% down. You can do it, but
Uh-huh.
the HELOC on that is at an extremely high interest rate.
Oh, the rates are high for 5% down?
Yes, because in order to do that, if you're in a jumbo loan category,
Uh-huh.
in order to do that, the home equity line, which would be the 15%,
Uh-huh.
going to
That
be
would be higher interest rates. Yeah. So basically, listeners, what we are talking about, let me break it down. We are trying to understand like 5% down that people are buying it with a 5% down. Yes, there are some people who are buying with a 15%, 5%. But when they do the 5% down, there will be 15% down for 15% would be HELOC loan and 80% is a regular loan, primary loans, right? So that 15% is called interest only loans. And what April is trying to say is that 15% down rates are a little bit higher end, not the regular, what not regulars are what 7.5% plus some 1% would be. I think maybe it's like close to a 10%. That's what she's noticing it. But listeners, one more thing is like right now, all the illegal immigrants and the immigrants on the H1B or will not qualify for 5%. It's only for the green card holders or citizens is where like they're qualifying for a 5% down. That's a new change. Correct. And but all this 5% again 10% again depends on your scenarios. If somebody is like stocks are going down in this time they want to do a 10% down, it's I educate them to do with a 10% down, and later when they're expecting to get some funds from India or like sell the stocks, they can still do it later at 10% down. That's the beauty of 10 10 80. 10 10 80 means this 10% is like what you down, and 10% is a HELOC loan, and 80% is a regular thing. And this 10% you can pay off anytime.
You can pay it off anytime and the payment will go to zero. You can keep the line. The line will still be available. So if you need to use it again for anything, you can use it and pay it off, and you only pay when it has an outstanding balance.
That's the beauty of that, like, right? Like, for example, you're waiting for to get some funds out. Why can't you just do a 10 10 80 instead of selling your stocks? Because selling your stocks is expensive. It's because anytime when you're buying a house, when you sell a house, it becomes in a cycle, right? 1 year you sell it for basically your down payment. The second year you sell it for paying a taxes for it.
Yeah.
So instead of getting into a loop, maybe do kind of a creativity. That's where the expert like me plays a role. And April. So April, if somebody wants to reach out to you, how they can reach out to you, April?
My telephone number is 949-306-8100.
Okay. If somebody wants to reach out to me, go to nagarajhomes.com, click on a WhatsApp icon. That's the easiest way to connect with me. If you don't remember April numbers, doesn't matter. You can give me a call and I can connect with the April on that. April has helped my lot of my clients, especially with the scenarios like the mortgage scenarios are like kind of so much unique, and she can go up to 50% DTI. And somebody has moved to US just less than a year. That also you can help them out. That is the beauty of your loan products, which I really liked about it. And I have a lot of upcoming listings starting from San Jose, San Ramon, Dublin, Mountain House, even in the Lathrop. If somebody wants to know more about my off-market listings also, and if they want to basically get into investment or like primary residence, first-time home buyers, right? Or even if they want to upgrade to a second houses also, they can always reach out to me. The easiest and best way, as I keep on saying, go to nagarajhomes.com. All these recordings is uploaded in my YouTube channel. Do subscribe for wealth of information. And thank you so much for all the listeners. Thank you, April. Thanks.
Nagaraj.
Thank you.